Welcome Tarnished to a different type of video. Now since we have just finished Limgrave and Weeping Peninsula, we are going to be creating a tier list for all the 32 bosses within Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula, ranked on, well, difficulty and basically a measure of coolness and how cool that boss was. Now this is obviously my opinions. You can have different opinions from me. You could think something I put in F tier is S tier. It's completely biased. So please, when you're leaving a hate comment, when you're on the keyboard and typing, well, actually, the Burial Watchdog is actually a really easy fight if you use this and this, so I would put it at F tier. Please think again, because I really don't care. But anyways, now we're here, a different kind of video. We have all the 32 bosses of Limgrave and Weeping Peninsula. Now let's start to grade them. Now first of all, in the list, we have the Flying Dragon Agheel. Now if you remember, we had a really good fight against the Flying Dragon Agheel in the Limgrave Lake. Took us a few tries, but we managed to get it. To be honest, thinking back at the fight, there is nothing really memorable about it. It wasn't too hard as well. Now we also do need to bear in mind that some of these bosses we did get to after exploring quite a bit, so we were kind of over leveled for them. But to be honest, the Flying Dragon Agheel, it's a dragon, so it does get an extra rank. To me it was okay, but the fact it was a dragon, I think it bumps it up to a dopamine tickle, because I do remember getting a dopamine boost after killing Flying Dragon Agheel. So we're gonna grab Flying Dragon Agheel and we're gonna slot it into the B tier. Now next up we have I Command Thee Kneel, Godric the Grafted. This was a fight. I really enjoyed this fight, to be honest. We got Nephililu to actually help us with this boss fight. It did take 2 tries, I believe it was, but I feel like the moveset was kind of bearing in mind we did actually clear out the whole of Limgrave and Weeping Peninsula plus Stormvale Keep, so we did have like a lot of runes and level ups before we even did this. So Godric the Grafted, now where would we put it? I wouldn't say it's okay. It's minimum a B for me. I don't think it was an anime fight. Maybe it was trivial for some of you, but I'm just gonna put it in B next to Flying Dragon Agheel because I feel like they both gave the same feelings for me. Okay, the Grafted Scion. The Grafted Scion. Now, which one is this? Oh, this is the one in Stormvale Keep and not the actual one in the tutorial area, because the one in the tutorial area just wrecks your shit as soon as you begin. So the one in Stormvale Keep is the one I'm gonna judge right now. So the one in Stormvale Keep was a good fight. And I do remember the barricade shield coming in clutch and it felt so good. So I'm not going to put it on S tier because I am ranking these according to like coolness and difficulty. And the Grafted Scion, I do believe, was A tier for me anyway. If you haven't watched a single episode of our Paladin playthrough, the link is in the description to the playlist down below where you can start watching from the first episode and catch up from when this type of video comes out. I believe we're on the 13th or 14th episode. So if you want to catch up to where we are, a fully exploration Paladin run in Elden Ring, then be my guest. Anyways, moving on. The Grave Warden Duelist. Now this is, I'm gonna put it straight into F tier. Difficulty wise, we walked in and I was like, oh shit, what's that? It took his robes off and it looked like it was gonna be a good fight, and it only took like 2 hits and it died. Now, I think we were kind of overpowered, but from how trivial like it was, it's not even E. I literally made that sound effect. I was like, roll the clip, Kai. So the Grave Warden Duelist is going to be an F tier for me. Keep in mind, this is the Grave Warden Duelist in the Limgrave Weeping Peninsula area. I'm not talking about the Grave Warden Duelist that you meet later on in the game. This whole tier list is strictly Limgrave, Weeping Peninsula, and Stormvale Keep. The Guardian Golem. It was in that cave, the catacomb, the really weird cave. The cave, I would give, it was annoying. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't say S tier because it wasn't really help me. I'm talking about the cave right now. I'm not talking about the golem. It was really annoying. You fell in the water, you died. There was bats everywhere. It was really annoying. But then we got to the Guardian Golem, and the Guardian Golem, it was a really small arena and we managed to kill it really easily. I don't think I'll be putting it into F tier, but I think it's going to be trivial. The Mad Pumpkinhead. Now this Mad Pumpkinhead, we're talking about the one in the ruined basement where we go down, and I can't remember the reward we got from the ruins, but this Mad Pumpkinhead fight was kind of, I remember it being pretty decent. Now the only problem with any of these are, we did kind of use our wolves for most of them, so they did bring the difficulty down a bit. But to be honest, the Mad Pumpkinhead, I would say is a C tier, maybe even a D tier. I don't know. It was like, okay. It didn't really pose too much of a threat. Our Sacred Blade dealt with it pretty easily. You know what? I'm going to bring it down to D tier. Margaret the Fell Omen. I'm trying to think back on Margaret the Fell Omen. We did die to it once, I believe, but I don't think it was that great. I don't think it was an anime style fight as well. It was pretty decent, and when we killed it, I felt like it was okay, to be honest. It was our first major boss fight, but I don't feel like it was that exciting. It wasn't that level, it wasn't even a dopamine tickle. I feel like, yeah, 100% the Dragon Egg Hill and the Godric the Grafted felt so much better than actually defeating Margaret the Fell Omen. Margaret the Fell Omen felt like Mad Pumpkinhead. Even his second phase when he got his hammer out, he killed us because I wasn't expecting it, but the second time, yeah, it's okay. Nothing to remember in that fight itself. The Knights Cavalry. Now, which one are we talking about? Okay, so since there's two, I'm gonna go with the first one. Even though in the playthrough we did get the one in the Weeping Peninsula first, the one in Limgrave is the one that we're gonna actually do here because this is the first one up. It wasn't that hard of a battle, to be honest. It did bug out and it dropped down the bridge. It took us a while to find it, and then we found it again, and then it wasn't that hard, to be honest. I'm gonna give it a D tier. The Knights Cavalry in the first area, Limgrave, it's a D tier. Patches, trivial. I'm not even gonna go through it. Oh wait, hold on. Now, normally it would be trivial if we were dodging and using a dual-handed sword like a great sword or anything. But thinking back to our playthrough and using a shield and a sword, every time we blocked, he would kick, break our poise and just one-shot us. But obviously, as you know, once you get Patches to about 50% health, he does give up and surrender. So that is why I put him in trivial. But then thinking back at what it did to us, I might put it in D tier. But then I'm thinking, is it as hard as Knights Cavalry or the Mad Pumpkinhead? No, not really. It's gonna stay in trivial. In fact, if we knew about the poise break that he has beforehand, I could even put him in F tier, to be honest. He's borderline F and E. You know what? I think the poise break makes him an E. If it wasn't for that, then I would put him in F. But he would be ahead of Grave Warden Duelist, 100%. I don't think anything is gonna beat the Grave Warden Duelist. And then as we say that, we get the Soldier of Godric. Anywho's, moving on, the Beastman of Farum Azula. Now, I believe this one was the first ever mini boss fight that we encountered in the cave. Now, we do have a reference. Every time I look at these, I'm like, was it as difficult or as cool as the Knights Cavalry fight? Not really, so I can't put him in D tier. To be honest, let me just adjust this real quick. The Knights Cavalry, I think, is better than the Mad Pumpkinhead fight, 100%. Does it gain any points for being the first ever mini boss fight? I think it's going to be trivial between the Guardian Golem and Patches. I don't think I could put it in D tier, to be honest. Because thinking about it, I'm like, Beastman of Farum Azula, it was our first ever mini boss fight of the series in the first episode, I believe it was. Since it's going to be remembered like down the line, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's just going to be trivial. Okay, moving on. The Stone Digger Troll. The Stone Digger Troll is really slow. It couldn't even be F tier, but is it F tier? I don't think it's F tier. I do think the Stone Digger Troll was actually harder than the Guardian Golem in my own personal experience, but it was also harder than Mad Pumpkinhead. Yeah, I think Air is okay. Nah, it wasn't harder than Mad Pumpkinhead, man. Nah, I think yeah. E is good for Stone Digger Troll. Trivial, but ahead of Guardian Golem. I feel like the Guardian Golem fight was so much easier than the Stone Digger Troll, to be honest. The Tibia Mariner, the one that we get in Limgrave, he himself was pretty shit. Summons made it quite hard. I'm in this space of putting everything in trivial. Because remember, Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula, the bosses aren't supposed to be that hard. So most of these bosses are going to be in the lower tiers. Beastman of Farum Azula cause more of a threat. Patches, yeah. I think Tibia Mariner is an F. Mainly because I don't think it hit us once. The Tree Sentinel. Now, okay, we didn't fight it straight away, but it was a hard fight since we didn't have that much time to farm and we didn't have that much time to explore before we went to him. So the Tree Sentinel, it was definitely a dopamine tickle. I might even put it in A. Grafted, it was better. It was a better fight than Grafted Scion, 100%. If we tried to kill it straight away without torrent, without anyone, definitely S tier. But anime fight, 100%. That was a pretty good fight, and it felt so good after beating it as well. Ulcerated Tree Spirit, thank you very much. Help me, please. That fight was pain. It's trauma. The ulcerated tree spirits in this game, we managed to defeat it after a few tries. Definitely S tier. Help me, please. Cemetery Shade, F straight away. You know what? Now that I put the Cemetery Shade in, I think the Soldier of Godric actually stood more of a chance than the Grave Warden Duelist. The Grave Warden Duelist was actually so much easier than the Soldier of Godric that you face in the tutorial section. So I'm going to switch them around. The Cemetery Shade, I was going to put last, but I think it was also ahead of Grave Warden Duelist because it did hit a lot when it did. The Erdtree Avatar. Now this is the one in the Weeping Peninsula. Was it a good fight? I feel like it was a dopamine tickle, yes. I think it's B tier but not ahead of Godric the Grafted. It's not C tier because I do remember it being a pretty hard fight, but I think we got it in the second try, and I am basing it off the feelings I get after defeating them as well. Erdtree Burial Watchdogs. Now I hate these motherfuckers. There was one with minions. I think this is the one with minions, so I'm gonna do the one without minions first. So the Erdtree Burial Watchdog, I would say, is on par with Margaret the Fell Omen. On par, so I would put them pretty much the same, but Margaret a bit more ahead. It was an okay fight. With the one with minions, I would also say okay. It doesn't beat Margaret. Once you defeat the minions, then it's basically the first boss without minions. I would put that ahead just because of the minions, because the minions can make it hard to move around. If you get hit by the chain attacks, so the minions are hitting you and then the Erdtree Burial Watchdog comes and kicks your ass, then that's a problem. But once you deal with the minions and stuff, it becomes the same as the other fight. So that's going to go in okay as well, but below Margaret the Fell Omen. Leonine Misbegotten. This one is at the Castle of Morn. The boss fight at the end of Castle of Morn, which gives us the Grafted Greatsword. It was like an anime fight, but the difficulty was really low. I did like the way the fight came out, if that makes sense. So it like A tier, but the difficulty was really low and it was pretty easy to defeat. So I'm gonna bring that down to C tier or B tier. I think Margaret the Fell Omen deserves a raise into B tier, ahead of the Erdtree Avatar. Now thinking back to it, 100%. And this brings us Leonine Misbegotten to the C tier. I was thinking about the difference between Margaret the Fell Omen and Leonine Misbegotten. I was gonna put Leonine Misbegotten in B tier, and I was like, it's not better than the Margaret fight, right? I think Leonine Misbegotten was an okay fight, but better than the Erdtree Watchdogs, yes, 100%. Miranda the Blighted Blue, maybe even below the Grave Warden Duelist. It doesn't fight back. It literally does not fight back. It does with poison, but you could just literally firm the poison, get poison and just kill it. No, that's F tier. Poofed, yes, poofed. Knights Cavalry Weeping Peninsula version. This one was harder. The Limgrave version was D tier, but I do believe this one is B or A. It's definitely not anime fight. It can be, but it's just a lot of running around with torrent, but it did feel good. I believe it's B tier ahead of the Erdtree Avatar. Yes. B tier dopamine tickle between Margaret the Fell Omen and Erdtree Avatar. I might even say it's better than Margaret, but I'm gonna keep it the way it is. The Bell-Bearing Hunter. Let's just drag that up here and in front of the ulcerated tree spirit, please. When I think of the Bell-Bearing Hunter, I just get trauma flashbacks. Just the thoughts of him swinging his red sword and killing me on 1 health. S tier, help me please, difficulty wise, and in terms of how cool the fight is as well. I do like a little sword fight with magical prowess. Rune Bear. Now, the Rune Bear is one of the bosses that we actually skipped in our full exploration playthrough, mainly because I was like, I ain't gonna fuck with that. We can base it off difficulty because I literally missed it because of how difficult it was. So I think this deserves a spot in the B tier. Maybe we go back in our playthrough and actually kill this Rune Bear because we did miss the Rune Bear, and I think it would have been in front of the Knights Cavalry. I don't think it's going to be better than the Knights Cavalry, to be honest. Scaly Misbegotten. I would say the Scaly Misbegotten was trivial to the point I'd put it just in between the Soldier of Godric and the Tibia Mariner, yes. Black Knife Assassin. So the Black Knife Assassin was the one in the catacombs, I believe, with half health, and I do remember it not being that trivial, but I think it's air. It was a pretty easy fight. I don't think it was a C tier. It was better than the Mad Pumpkinhead fight, not better than the Limgrave Knights Cavalry, to be honest. So it's gonna go in between the D tier of Knights Cavalry and the Mad Pumpkinhead. Crucible Knight. Luckily for us, having a shield makes this fight so much easier. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's an S tier, but I know Crucible Knights are very difficult, especially later on in the game. And this one, I think our shield helped make this fight a bit more easier than what it is. I think I'm gonna place Crucible Knight into A tier and above Tree Sentinel. It wasn't too difficult to put into S tier, but it was definitely an anime fight. A tier, Tree Sentinel. Oh, my voice is going because I've been recording for the past 5 hours. Ancient Hero of Zamor. A, yes. behind Crucible Knight, in front of the Tree Sentinel, 100%. That fight was pretty cool. It just looked like an anime fight. And the difficulty was there as well. It wasn't too hard for me to hate myself. I think it's up there. The Ancient Hero of Zamor is definitely up there. Bloodhound Knight Darrowwill. Again, I would say the same thing as Ancient Hero of Zamor. We took it on pretty early. We weren't that overpowered, so it was like the Ancient Hero of Zamor fight. A very, very anime-esque fight. I think the Bloodhound Knight Darrowwill is gonna be up there, but behind Ancient Hero of Zamor. In front of Tree Sentinel, maybe. No. Coolness wise, the way it looked, I think is above Tree Sentinel. But the difficulty wise, I think they need to switch places. Just think of these guys as the same. So they're on par with each other. Deathbird. Okay. Deathbird is actually one that we skipped. It's a nighttime boss in both Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula that we can find. And we didn't go there. We still haven't fought the Deathbird. I do know how hard they are though. I do believe it would be either an A or an S. The Deathbird couldn't be on par with the bell-bearing hunter. If I think back to one of the playthroughs that I've done, the Deathbird that I faced in Mount Glenmore, but the thing is, the ones in different areas aren't of same caliber strength, so this one might be so much easier. So I am going to put this at the end of A tier in front of the Grafted Scion, because I do believe it would be a better fight than Grafted Scion. I don't know about the Tree Sentinel, so it will stay here just for safekeeping. So those are two bosses that we haven't done in our playthrough so far that I can't really comment on. And the Demi-Human Chiefs, if you remember, it's in the cave. There's two of them. You gotta defeat it and its minions. So the Demi-Human Chiefs, we used our wolves as well, which made it bearable. If you don't use your wolves in this fight, I do believe this fight can be pain because of the minions, not because of the boss itself. With the level it was, I think this was a D tier at the end of D tier, to be honest. It made it trivial, but I do think it could go up to C if you do try it yourself without your summons. And with that, we have placed all 32 of the Limgrave bosses into a tier list according to how difficult they were, how cool they were, and our experience with them in the Paladin full exploration playthrough. Why is that so hard to say? So this is how the tier list has ended up looking. If you haven't watched any of the episodes, or if you've watched one or two of the episodes of our playthrough, the link is in the description below to click and start the playlist from the first episode. And also at the end of the video, you'll be able to click on it to go to the playlist. Well, Tarnished, that's the end of a different episode. Today was kind of a different type of video. I wanted to do this after every area that we beat. So next time we'll do a Leone of the Lakes tier list, and at the end of our playthrough, I think we might do a Mega Haul tier list with just every boss in the game that we fought and just rank them and see how it ends up. So make sure to subscribe if you want to catch that. And also, a new Elden Ring episode is out every Monday, Wednesday and Fridays. Make sure you don't miss it. Leave a thumbs up to support me and also this channel and help the YouTube algorithm. I hope to see you guys in the next episode of Elden Ring. Take care and peace out. How you doing?